Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Random Chatter Reviews. This is our review show where we talk about stuff that we've watched this past week and kind of recommendations to stay away from stuff when we find those things. Tonight, we've got our usual cast of characters here. We have Eric, Timothy, and myself. Eric, how are you doing tonight?
I was doing great until I realized that little banner down in the corner here still said Force Chatter from our last episode, but it's fixed now. I'm doing great. I'm finally adjusting to not staying up all night on weekends because my body thinks I'm supposed to switch to different sleep schedules. So that is getting much better. New job's going okay.
Yeah, I mean, having a standard schedule is awesome.
Right?
Welcome to the rest of the world.
Thank you. I had no idea it was like this.
Awesome. And Tim, how are things up in the Great White north of New York?
Things are good. Things are frigidly cold right now, and I think by Thursday it's going to hit 60.
Nice.
But that's how things are here. Trust me, it is not spring because it's March, and March means we will get one more big snowstorm before the
spring is only
done,
13 days away, Tim. So maybe you need to talk to Mother Nature about that. So
it's not that bad.
No, actually, this is my favorite time of the year. I love it when you get those days where it's like 60 and you're like, this is like summertime.
I am looking forward to opening up like all the windows in the house those afternoons and just letting fresh air circulate. You know, you got to do that.
It was nice to be able to drive with the windows down. I hate driving with the windows down, but in general, but it was like, wow, I'm going slow enough. I can enjoy this. This is all right.
It's like, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get right to it. We have a couple joint picks this week that is pretty much all I've been watching. So we're going to go through these. So first up, WandaVision, the finale of WandaVision.
Yeah, we're not going to spoil anything.
Friday. Nope, no spoilers.
But holy crap, I can't believe they killed everybody.
Watched it.
No. That was Rogue One. That was Rogue One.
Spoiler. I don't like. It took a second time of watching for me to make sure that I liked it. Like I knew I liked it, but I kind of feel like, and this is a big discussion that's been going on in the Discord server. I kind of feel like, and again, no spoilers. There are things that were introduced that clearly will spill over into other MCU content later. Which was kind of expected. I think I just didn't expect it to be as many things as it is. And not that there's a crap ton of things, but more than I expected. And I kind of stand by the argument that while I really, really enjoyed this, I feel like it's its own series. And there's not going to be a season 2. It's a mini series. So like you do your story, you wrap up your story. If there's tangential stuff that also overlaps with other things in the future, that's great. I love that kind of thing. I love that bigger continuity, but this is its own story. When you introduce elements that get us asking questions in this story, I kind of feel like most of those things should be wrapped up. And if there's like one thing or two things, that's okay. But
well, I think that's why we're going to have other series, right? I mean, maybe not diving into every single question that was raised.
But are we though?
These characters, but I think you're going to see some stuff continue on into other MCU properties.
But we should, but that's, I guess my point is that this should be, if you look at Iron Man 2, which I hope you don't because it was horrible, but Iron Man 2, like it's its own story and it's a sequel. So yes, it builds on what happened before in its own series, but I don't expect that, if you want to find out what happened to all of these other things, then go check out Thor 3. Well, no. Because it's not Thor. It's Iron Man 2. So WandaVision ended. And I know Wanda is going to appear in other things. And it's already been publicly announced that Doctor Strange 2 is going to also include Wanda. And so it's a natural assumption that before this even started, we assumed that plot lines from here would flow into that. But I argue on principle that I wasn't entirely comfortable with the quantity of things that apparently we're going to have to go somewhere else to some other character's thing to discover. And again, I loved the show. I loved the finale.
Okay.
But
So Tim, you're our MCU guy. What were your thoughts on this?
I loved what they did with it. I'm glad that, there are obviously a lot of rumors milling about of Doctor Strange or Reed Richards or, X-Men or, all sorts of different characters that were going to be appearing somewhere in this. And while certainly I would have loved to see, especially I was really, really hoping for the Fantastic Four lead in, because they really just seem to kind of be, telegraphing that from early on. So while there's a little bit of me that's disappointed, that doesn't poison the well for me at all. I'm really glad with what they did. Yes, I agree with what Eric said. There are doors that they left open. There are doors that they closed. And there are some doors that weren't there before that suddenly magically appeared. And I think that's fine, because I think when we look at the MCU as a franchise, as a whole, I mean, yes, there are things that are self-contained. I think every film and every series should be to a certain extent self-contained, because they are telling a specific defined story there. And I think they did a good job of that with WandaVision, but they are very clearly leading into other things, and they're bringing up plot lines and developing characters into certain directions and leaving certain threads out there. And they've done that with a lot of the films too.
But I feel like when they did it with the films, there were fewer things, and it was mainly like post-credit stuff, not things that actually were prominent in the films.
Yeah, there were probably fewer things, and I think that's because the films are films. You have, when you have a series, you're able to tell more story. Thank you, Lou, for the appropriate Avengers Tower background you just put on. Mm-hmm. So with a series, you're able to tell a lot more story. You're able to get things a lot more intricate. You're able to do more with it. With a film, you got to be, fast and heavy through the whole thing. And moving very quickly through those 3 acts. With a series, they can just, they can do a lot more. They can have a lot more deviation. So I'm thrilled. I mean, there were things I was surprised by how certain things ended up, and I'm glad that I was, because if I could have anticipated it, that just doesn't make it as fun. I'm really good with it, and just like what The Mandalorian did for Star Wars on Disney Plus, in terms of establishing a really firm footprint and kind of defining what they can do for the streaming series. WandaVision did this the same thing for the MCU.
Yeah.
So they punched high, they punched hard, and they show that they can do a lot of things. And they are not afraid. And I think that's one of the things also, is that going into these, we have to really go into a mindset that streaming services, the things that we see on streaming services don't necessarily need to fit in that mold of traditional episodic TV shows or movies or miniseries. They're going to kind of not only toe that line, but kind of, drunkenly stagger and weave their way across those lines as they go. And even, defining completely new things, because they can. There really are no rules when it comes to streaming.
I'm going to push back a little bit, though. I do expect like a story to be a story. Not that this wasn't, totally. But like I stand by my other point. I agree with you, though. It was good. It was brilliant. I loved the series. I thought they wrapped it up in a way that was mostly perfect. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait for Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, yeah.
I wish I could talk spoilers. I'm so jealous that you're going to get to discuss this on Guardians of the MCU. Which is going to air when? When are you guys covering it?
Well, so we actually already talked about it over on MCU TV. That episode is already up. Because Guardians of the MCU is kind of perpetually spoilery, because we're just constantly talking about Marvel content, and the only way to do it is to, basically stay current with things. So, we don't have any specific topics necessarily coming up in it. And in fact, a lot of our focus in our episode for Guardians Monday night, so it'll be out probably Tuesday, is already focused on the next thing, which is Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Right.
So, because that's coming up in 2 weeks.
I know, pretty quick. Good turnaround.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next up, we have something that we're probably going to have to limit Eric on talking about because I think he's going to have some choice words for this.
What's that supposed to mean?
No, you can be a lot outspoken sometimes. But
Lou and I got a preview, Eric. In fact, we've
it
already
must be okay. I know what we're talking about then. Okay,
we've already seen this episode of Random Chatter Reviews, so we know how long it is.
We have, yes. What we're talking
like
about is Coming to America, the follow-up to the 1988 movie of Coming to America. Mm-hmm. Eddie Murphy reprising his role of the Prince of I almost said Wakanda. What country is he from?
Zamunda.
Zamunda, yes, there you go.
Yes.
And now it's 30 years later, and what's going on and what's happening and so forth. So I watched it last night. You guys watched, I think, before I did. I'll kind of give my 2 cents first on it. I thought it was nostalgia ridden and fun-ish a little bit here and there. I wouldn't say it was horrible. I also wouldn't say it was fantastic. But I thought it was a fun ride, knowing it was going to be bad going into it. Kind of pacing my expectations with that. I thought it was okay.
You're such a nice person.
I try.
I wish somebody paced my expectations. I was an idiot and watched the trailer and got excited about it.
Tim, what were your thoughts?
I very much in line with yours, Lou. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought it was really fun. I mean, you kind of have to temper your expectations. The first movie was an absolute classic, and you're just not going to get there. So I think it's a rare occasion that a sequel will meet or even exceed the original. That said, basically all the original cast and characters, which is an important distinction considering that in the original Coming to America, you had cast members playing multiple characters.
Right.
So many of those were reprised. And so you had all these great throwbacks. It was really nostalgic. It was really funny. And I got to say, the first act, I wasn't that impressed. I was laughing. I thought it was funny, but the setup of the story to me just kind of seemed really kitschy, and it almost I don't know. There was just part of it where and there's a phrase that Eric used for this. Eric, is it okay if I steal your phrase that you mentioned to us last night?
I have no doubts I will circle back to it again. So go ahead.
Where you said that it didn't have as much heart as the original one. And that's that's the thing. Once you said that last night, I'm like, that's exactly how I feel about this. Now, that said, it got into the second act and it got even funnier. Now, in the second act, not much into the second act, I knew exactly what was going to happen with every major character in that movie. But you know what? It's a comedy. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You just enjoy the ride, because that movie was not about story. If you were watching that movie for story, you were watching the wrong movie.
Right. Right.
The third act, and I know Carrie is with me on this, and she's in the chat. For a good part of the third act, I was laughing so much there were tears coming out of my eyes.
You've got to be kidding me. I refuse to believe that. That's not even possible.
Damn. You can ask my wife. It was so damn funny. It was.
You watched the first one or the one that came out
again. It was great.
Like this past week.
This is the new one. This is the new one. So it was, will I say it was a great movie? No, but I'll say it was a really good movie. I enjoyed it for what it was. And it was funny. It was really funny. And to see Wesley Snipes, oh my gosh. The character that he had, it was funny. It was good.
Okay, go ahead, Eric. You're rubbing your head pretty hard there, so let's get this off your chest.
want to get microphone situated here. Okay. So last week I had some comments on Tom and Jerry. And I would like to backpedal on some of those comments. Because while that was a horrible movie that should never have happened, that had no heart and was billed as a comedy and didn't have a single funny moment in it, there was probably a moment where I like maybe smirked or something. Like I don't remember such a moment, but there had to have been, because that was more comedy than this. There was not a single funny moment in this whole film. Not even something like that even made my eyebrows go up a little bit. Like this was an utter lack of comedy. There was literally not a funny thing that happened. Not a single, like I respect the fact that everybody gets different things out of films from one another. I mean, I've been doing this with Lou for a decade now, and there are things we don't agree on, and I don't understand him. He doesn't understand me and stuff like that. But like Tim, when you said you laughed that hard, if you said there was the whole movie sucked, but there was this one moment that was that funny, I still wouldn't. Like I can't even process that. Like, and I understand comedy subjective, and everybody thinks different things are funny, but like there was nothing there that just even seemed like in the realm of. Like if this were 2 decades ago, a joke might have worked at some point, but even then I can't think of anything. So,
I'm like halfway between you guys because I didn't find stuff like I'm going to have tears rolling down my cheeks funny like Tim did, but I also thought there was a lot of funny stuff.
I mean, I'm glad, but I'm curious, like if you want to send me a list, because if that's all it takes to be funny, dude, I have like a career ahead of me. Okay. I mean, and as far as the thing about not having any heart, so another recent movie that's a good comparison to this, I think, is the Bill and Ted Face the Music movie.
Which I haven't seen.
Okay.
Nope.
I saw the original.
If there's a movie title that starts with Bill and Ted, I've not seen it.
Okay.
Wow.
The original for the time it came out was fine. Like it wasn't bad. The second one, it's like, okay, it's a cash grab. This third one was not a good movie. Bill and Ted Face the Music was not a good movie, but I don't regret seeing it. It was enjoyable. I would recommend you watch it, Lou. Why? Because it had a heart to it, even if it wasn't always funny. And there were some funny moments, but there were a lot of moments where the comedy was dumb and fell flat. But even then it had heart, and it had there was something there that resonated, and the characters were likable. And in this movie, this was just every character's journey in this movie was so cardboard. I mean, we're talking like grade school level writing. The jokes fell flat. And it it didn't have any heart to it at all. I regret watching the movie. I almost stopped halfway through, and I said, no, I'm not going to stop because it has to get better than this. And it never, it got less like just stupid and chaotic in the writing, and it started to go in a direction, which was great. It sucked so bad. And coming to America, there was like no America. Not that I mind movies that are set elsewhere, but like everything that made the first movie good, the whole fish out of water and somebody who doesn't get it coming into like Queens, New York, and you getting to watch them try to, acclimate themselves. I almost said assimilate, but like acclimate themselves to it and stuff. That was funny. And even in the moments that weren't, it had heart. Like that was good. That's why the first one's such a classic. And this one, you get someone else going to Zamunda, and you didn't like anybody in Zamunda, and you didn't really like that character that came over here. You didn't have any sympathy for him. And then even when they tried to build him as sympathetic, the whole situation was still so pathetic that you didn't really want anybody to win. Like there was just, I'll stop there, but It was bad. Like I can't.
Okay.
I'm trying really hard to find a good thing about Wesley Snipes. Was good. Ish. He was fine. Like I'll throw that out there as like a glass half full sort of thing. Wesley Snipes' performance was fine, and it was. Those were the better moments in the movie.
Okay, well, we agree to disagree, I guess.
Fair enough.
And speaking of Tom and Jerry, I gave it about 15 minutes worth of try, and I couldn't take any more than that.
Way better than Coming to America, Lou.
Ouch.
No.
And I hated that.
I
want to be clear. I'm not recommending Tom and Jerry.
I mean,
don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no. Tom and Jerry was horrific.
It was horrific.
Anyway, next up, one thing we have in our notes I have not seen but is on my list is Pacific Rim: The Black. This is the animated series on Netflix. I really want to watch this, but I haven't seen anything about it. Have you guys watched at least an episode or two?
I saw the first episode, and I know, Tim, you're a big kaiju and especially Jaeger fan. So did you make it through more than just the pilot?
I binged the entire season.
Oh, okay.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So I will say that I liked the pilot. It made me curious as to whether it gets better as it goes along. It was a typical kind of an anime pilot, and you're getting used to the characters and you're getting used to the story and the environment, and it was good. It made me want to continue it, and I expect that I'm going to be hooked by the second or third episode. I could walk away from it now and be okay, but I'm optimistic. Like I want to keep watching the series. But Tim, you've seen the whole series, so what's your take?
So I think people know I love the Pacific Rim franchise, and I've been a big fan of animation on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a little while to get into this series.
Okay.
The first episode is good. Then it kind of like takes a slow walk for a little while. It's telling its story. I respect it for what it's doing. I'm not bashing it for that. I'm just saying it's just kind of a slow burn there. And then the last few episodes like really, really pick up. And
how many are there?
You're left
Ballpark.
maybe 10.
Okay.
I was just, I think there was like 8, I thought, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
And they're 20 minutes apiece, I think, right?
Yeah, it's a half-hour show.
Yeah, somewhere on there. The story is really well done, and so it's the kind of story that we would not see in a movie. We wouldn't see it live action. They're definitely taking advantage of the animated medium,
right,
to be able to do certain things. It is set after the second film, but it seems a period of time after the second film. I'm on one hand, I'm a little concerned because I'm hoping that it doesn't pigeonhole them, because I want to see more Pacific Rim movies. And I think that there's some space in there for them to, have another film between the second film and this series. But they can also put in films located in other areas. I mean, the first film was in Japan. The second film was in Japan and Australia. They could very easily do one on the Korean Peninsula, China, West Coast US, wherever, and tell different stories of different people all doing, battling the kaiju, and they would all be great stories. So I guess, to that extent, I'm not as concerned. It was good. It's a good story. They build really good characters in it. It's what it really comes down to is it's a really kind of a post-apocalyptic kind of thing. Whereas, the first two movies, they're still a pretty solid society.
Yeah.
This series is no. The kaiju have had their way with everyone, and this is where we're at.
And that's not a spoiler. That's the setting for the first episode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's good because Lou and I like post-apocalyptic stories, so that's actually a benefit.
It's interesting because, I have
like
not been a big Pacific Rim fan to begin with. First movie I thought was okay. I never saw the second one. I'm planning on seeing
It's
that
worth
now
watching.
and watching the series.
Yeah.
But to me, Eric, much like we have our discussion about the whole Snowpiercer thing, where I don't get the whole train, traveling around the world thing to stay warm. I also don't get the whole let's build a giant robot that's gonna be run by two guys, and yeah, there's gonna be a better way to fight, giant monsters than creating technology to build a robot that stands on 2 feet and fights. I don't know. I mean,
why would you not want to build a giant robot, Lou?
Why would you
Vision
need to require
it's
two
awesome.
people to do the same identical things in order to run it?
Yeah, there's holes in technology, Tim. I just don't
They
get
have
it. And that's what breaks it
maximized
for me.
Voltron. Voltron takes 5 people. This takes 2.
Can we have
people.
Voltron
The
instead?
5 people are each doing their own thing. It's like one guy's running the whole show, and one guy's running the left hand,
Right.
and one guy's running the right hand, and yeah.
And all the
I get
lions
that.
work independently, but this, you literally have two people. Like when one steps forward with the right leg, so does the other human. Just have one human do it. And there's no, it's not even a redundancy. If it were a redundancy system, I could understand it. Like the one person
overload.
gets shot in the head and the other person can keep going, but they can't. It's not like one's like a backup for the other.
Neurological
You
overload.
literally have to have
Okay.
both. So you almost need a third person there in the cockpit. So if one person does die or have a heart attack or a bullet flies through and kills them, then they can step into that person's spot. And then you have your redundancy. It doesn't make sense.
I love you guys.
So it's cool, but I just don't get it. So yeah. Enough about
But
that.
it's good.
Okay.
You should watch the second one.
I will, and I want to
The
watch
second one
series
is great.
too. So, because it's John Boyega, so yeah. We'll
So
see.
that helps. Yeah.
Lastly, we have Debris, which is the new series on NBC, which will probably means it's going to be a one season and done thing, maybe. But did you guys have a chance to catch the first episode?
I did.
I did not.
Okay, Eric, what did you think?
It's one of those series so far where I feel like, again, by the third or fourth episode, I'll be hooked to the first episode. You have to learn the characters, and the characters are kind of intentionally a little bit hard to get. So it kind of felt like, for those who are not familiar with the series, kind of felt a little bit like The Lost Room meets Fringe. Tiny, tiny, tiny bit of X-Files thrown in, but it felt very Fringe meets Alien sort of thing meets The Lost Room. And it seemed good. Like I liked, I don't know, like I was a little bit confused with some of the details of like the premise for that individual episode.
Yeah,
But it's okay. Like it was less about what was going on technologically and more about the character relationships and establishing the story and the world building.
which I think makes it a stronger show too than just about the technology. I mean, the technology is cool. I want to know what's going on with that. I mean, the premise was what they see a spaceship breaking up, flying through our solar system, like what 3 years ago or 10 years ago, and now it's starting to fall on Earth, and that's the debris that we're getting.
We're talking little pieces like, handheld size pieces of spaceship debris.
Yeah, and some are bigger,
True.
But anyways, so the premise is kind of cool, I thought. I was a bit surprised that they're going to be doing this as, there was something else going on in this first episode, and I'm not going to spoil the episode, so you got to watch it, but there's a whole human element to it that has nothing to do with the sci-fi aspect of it. It was more about, not really a character study, but psychological stuff going on about what it was doing to people.
Right.
Which is good. It's just different than I thought it was going to be. So I'm interested to see if they're going to be doing different things like that throughout the whole series. Like this one took, one character in Lost and so forth. Is another one going to be more about, I don't know, some other aspect of humanity. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with that. But I mean, I'm going to give it a shot. I was intrigued enough by the first episode that I'm happy to keep going with this. So that is recommendation for me, I guess, is to watch Debris.
I would recommend it too. I think it's
Okay.
looking like it's going to be a pretty strong series.
Yeah.
I hope they keep it around.
Yeah, I mean, NBC doesn't have the best track record with sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, but I don't
we'll
know
see.
they're better
I'm
than
thinking
Fox.
like Surface and Yeah, that's true.
And right now, I think everybody's desperate enough for stuff that both it'll make them more likely to hold on to it, and probably more likely for people to watch it. So I think that, and they're really trying to promote their streaming service, Peacock Plus.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm optimistic on this one.
Okay, well, we'll see where it goes. I'm going to go next because I don't have a lot besides those first things that we just talked about. The only thing I've started watching recently that's fairly new for me is See You Yesterday. It's a 2019 movie on Netflix about time travel, of course. And I'm only about maybe 15 minutes into it, but it's intriguing. It's two high school kids are developing a time travel technology thing. Kind of interesting. So we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
But just started watching that one. Tim, what have you been up to?
Let's see. So not a whole lot. Work has been just absolutely kicking my butt this week. But two new things. First of all, My Spy. Have you guys seen My Spy yet?
No.
Is that the one
Dave Bautista?
Dave Bautista? Yeah. No, I haven't seen it yet.
I remember the premise. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
It looked good. I mean, goodish.
Yeah, so that came out in theaters like just before the pandemic. So it didn't get its full run in the theaters. You can find it now on Amazon Prime. Highly, highly, highly recommend it.
Okay. Wasn't it like him and a little kid?
Hilarious movie. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So well done. Dave Bautista, the young lady's name is Chloe Coleman, who is fantastic. She's just absolutely great in this. Ken Jeong is also in it. I think that's really all there is in terms of the main characters or the known actors.
Okay.
Just a fantastic movie. Really, really funny. Solid story with it. Yeah. If you want to laugh, it's a great movie to go to.
Good.
On the complete opposite side, as in not a funny movie, last night we watched The Devil All the Time. Have you guys seen this?
No, never heard of it, I don't think.
So this was released last year on Netflix.
Right.
This is a Tom Holland movie. Let's see, Bill Skarsgård was in it. Haley Bennett was in it. Sebastian Stan was in it. It is, it actually a good part of the movie takes place in your neck of the woods, Eric.
Yeah. So it's a horror movie.
Actually a bit west of you.
Then it's definitely a horror movie.
Straddle like southern Ohio and kind of that northwestern corner of West Virginia.
This sounds familiar.
It is, it's a good movie. The story itself is very, very good. This is not a family friendly movie. It is, it's funny because I can watch a war movie and shrug off the violence in a war movie, watching dozens or hundreds of people die and get blown up and that kind of stuff. A movie like this, there's a handful of people that die, and like I'm left like, holy crap, this is a violent movie. And not violent like where people are getting torn apart or anything like that, but it's some of them are just like really surprising to you. The story is done really well. It's kind of one of those, and I'm not comparing the genre or anything else like that. I'm just comparing strictly the story beats of how the story is told. There's some similarity to like Pulp Fiction, where you have these different veins of stories with these different groups of people. And then as the movie progresses, they start to kind of cross each other's paths. You see the relationships that like story A has, someone in story A has this kind of relationship with someone in story D that you're not realizing until well into the second act or even in the third act. And it's all very, very, very intricate, a lot of moving parts to it. It was good. It was solidly good. But yeah, a little disturbing. But yeah, definitely recommend that. It was good. That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. And Eric, what about you?
Well, aside from the stuff we've already covered, not a whole lot, but I did catch the Billie Eilish documentary that got posted to Apple TV Plus, which apparently has been breaking some streaming records. It was good. It did a good job of kind of understanding who she is, where she's coming from, what her family life is like. And it seemed very upfront about things that didn't gloss over stuff very much. And it is kind of an interesting story that she has, considering how young she got started, how quickly she skyrocketed, the story writing method. It was really good. I would highly recommend it. I also started watching another documentary called Boys State. I'm still about maybe halfway through it. It's every year since like 1935 or something like that. The state of Texas takes a week and they take it's either high school seniors or college kids or something like that, high school graduates. And they put them in this like mock election where they run for governor of the state, and there's various different offices that people are running for, and they're two fictional political parties. And it's like a big deal, like former presidents and all kinds of different people who are professionally into politics, either as politicians or as commenters, have gone through this program. And I'm about halfway through it, and it is frightening. A couple of the kids involved are taking it seriously. And then you've got others who are treating it like a fraternity sort of thing. Others who are like, they want to help people. Doesn't really matter what platform they run on or what they're trying to do. They'll just, whatever the party decides is fine. That's fine. I just want to, my job is to support the party. It's interesting to see the perspective on this stuff from kids who are both the future of the country and also hyper interested in making this their life. And it's sobering. It's interesting so far. Also, there is a new talk show on Disney Plus called Earth to Ned, and it's done by Jim Henson, where it's an alien and he's interviewing people. I watched the first episode. It's got Andy Rickman.
It's not done by Jim Henson.
I thought it was done by Jim Henson's studio. Obviously not Jim Henson himself. He's passed many years ago, but no, Jim Henson Studios.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. All right.
I have to explain that. You're right. It's not Jim Henson.
Like, I wasn't meaning to be a jerk.
Okay.
I was like,
oh, I thought you were.
It just seems odd because like he's been dead for a long time.
He's that good, Tim. He's that good.
From the grave.
He planned this so far in advance. So Andy Richter and Gillian Jacobs from Community were both on it. And like from the trailers and stuff, it looked pretty good. It was the kind of thing my son would love if he knew any of the people on his guests, and if he understood any of the grown-up references they're making to things that made it funny. Not adult as in inappropriate, just adult as in, if you're a kid, you haven't been through that part of your life yet, so you don't understand why that's funny or why that's a thing. So it was one of those things where it doesn't really have a good target audience. Its style and tone very much kind of teen sort of thing. And to really get the content, I'm thinking, mid-20s and older. And so it doesn't really seem to have like latch on to the group very well, but I don't know. It's decent in the background. And then finally, catching up on The Walking Dead. And then I started For All Mankind earlier today.
Okay. How far into that are you?
Only an episode and a half, maybe.
Okay.
And it's good. It's, I don't get into historical. I know historical is only like, it's not that old. that all that stuff happened. But, I tend to not get into going back and watching stuff from like the 50s, 60s, 70s.
Okay, now you guys heard that Eric just said that. It's not that old, and that's older than I am.
No,
so
it's
let's
not.
I want to point that out.
No, it's not.
I want to point that out. Just, it's not
I mean,
that
it's
old.
recent. It's since she retired, but it's not like it's like really.
No. That predates me.
Sure it does. Anyway.
So, I also, you mentioned Walking Dead. You said you were catching up, so you didn't see the premiere of the new season.
No,
then, right?
I'm like, I watched part of season 8, but then I lost track of where I left off, so I'm rewatching it to kind of make sure I don't miss any of it. So yeah, I'm maybe 4 episodes into season 8 right now.
Okay. So I also have a question, and I don't go out of my way to listen to her music, but I've heard a good amount of Billie Eilish's stuff, and she's a very talented young lady. I like the music she's putting out. It seems odd to me that basically a brand new artist is going to have a documentary. Like, artists don't get documentaries until way into their careers, or sometimes after their careers. It seems odd to me that they did this. I mean, was there like a real reason for this? Is this really just a marketing piece? Is that fundamentally what it comes down to, Eric?
I don't think so.
That like her people just said, hey, let's do this documentary thing. It'll be a good marketing thing.
So let me explain her people. So she won, when her first album came out, she won, I think, like 6 Grammys or something, including Album of the Year. Her brother produced the album for her, and also helped her write it. So all of the recording was done in her bedroom, or his bedroom, in a bedroom in their parents' very like reasonably small house. And then it was produced either in part in the bedroom and in part in the living room. He also won Producer of the Year. And I don't know if you know too much about music production, but there's some really freaking big names in music production. For you to be like, I don't know, a 17-year-old, 18-year-old producing music literally in your bedroom and win Grammy for Producer of the Year is almost as notable as what she did with her Grammys that she won.
Okay.
I think that regardless of who decided to make the documentary, I think the documentary was warranted because it shows a path to her success and a representation of the struggles she's been through that, while nothing like, like outrageous or anything, it's a path that we haven't seen before. And I found it interesting. It kind of covered like how she does her songwriting, where her songs come from, being on tour at that age, the amount of involvement her parents had, both in raising her, but then also in being on tour with her and helping her navigate that sort of thing as a teenager. I didn't find myself multitasking very much through it. I had kind of put it on as background noise, and I ended up paying more attention as it went on. I mean, that's a really good question, but I'd say yes, it holds up as a solid documentary, and regardless of why they decided to do it, I think it was smart that they did. I think that it's legitimately worthy. And her people, like, she hates dealing with any of the music industry people too. So I don't know whose decision it was to make it, but a lot of her promotion and stuff like that, a lot of it is social media and word of mouth and concerts and stuff like that. She doesn't really get behind the whole marketing. She is not a Taylor Swift by any stretch of the imagination. Very much the opposite. She doesn't want the whole business part of it. She's just like, let me write some songs and sing them, and then like all this other nonsense, You deal with it.
Right. Okay.
Good question though, but yeah, I think it holds up. It's good. But that's all I got. I got nothing else. So
okay. Well, there you have it. We have some things for you to watch and some things for you to stay away from. Depending on who you talk to, which one of us. But we'll come back at you guys next week with more reviews of stuff that we're catching up on and stuff that we're enjoying for the first time. In the meantime, though, check us out on our website. You can go to randomchatter.com and see everything about us, as well as our Discord server and our store, and check out our video shows on YouTube and all that kind of good stuff. So we would appreciate you guys to go to the YouTube channel and like and subscribe to us there. It does help us out, and we appreciate you guys listening to us live, too. We love the live chat room. That's been awesome with this tonight, and keeping us on straight and narrow. And that's about it. So, guys, thank you for listening. We'll see you guys in about a week.